He decided to take out his mom just to flex on social media. This despicable woman got her guy friends to go after her now late ex-boyfriend. This mom, son, and his girlfriend saw this guy show off on social media, and they decided to rob him. And they decided to rip off anyone they could with fake sweepstakes wins. Let's start off with this despicable crime. Number 5. Dangerous insecurities. Colleen Rebelo wanted the world to see him as wealthy and successful, but behind the scenes, he was drowning in debt. So, to keep up the illusion, he took out secret life insurance policies on his own mother, Colleen Rebelo, then made sure he'd be the one to cash in. What started as an unremarkable passing soon unraveled into a dark plot, exposing a man willing to go to horrifying lengths to fund his so-called glamorous lifestyle. Colleen was discovered under a running shower back in 2020, and at first, her passing wasn't considered suspicious. She appeared to have collapsed from some medical issue. There were no obvious signs of foul play, and while the coroner couldn't pinpoint an exact reason for her passing, nothing seemed out of place. But since a cause couldn't be determined, the case remained open. 2 years later, the investigation took a turn when police were tipped off about Andre's relentless attempts to cash in on 3 life insurance policies worth over $1.5 million. Policies he had secretly taken out in his mother's name just weeks before she was found unresponsive. A psychologist raised concerns to authorities, and an insurance company flagged suspicious activity related to his claims. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a trail of deception, including forged documents, such as his mother's will, and even a falsified coroner's report that indicated the case was closed with no further investigation needed. And despite later admitting to these fraudulent acts, he insisted he had nothing to do with what happened to his mother, which wasn't exactly convincing. During his trial, the prosecution painted a picture of a desperate man drowning in debt, struggling to maintain the illusion of a wealthy lifestyle with his social media influencer girlfriend, Gracie Piscopo. While their online presence suggested luxury and financial success, the reality was quite the opposite. Andre was being chased by debt collectors, and in the week leading up to his mother's passing, he quietly took out multiple life insurance policies without telling his 3 siblings, all so he could keep up appearances. This wasn't just about money. It was about flexing a lifestyle he couldn't afford, no matter the cost. During the trial, forensic experts testified that Colleen may have been smothered, though no definitive cause was ever established. Small injuries near her face and hands suggested some level of blunt force trauma, but nothing conclusive enough to determine exactly what had happened. This lack of physical evidence became a key argument for the defense, but the jury wasn't swayed. As part of the investigation, police secret played in court. The recordings revealed her panic over his fraudulent activities and her genuine belief that he was being framed. In the tapes, Andre downplayed the situation, promising Gracie he wouldn't go to jail and even suggesting he could just flee the country before that happened. Even after everything, he still carried himself like someone who thought he was untouchable, more concerned with keeping up his image than facing reality. After nearly 2 days of deliberation, the jury found Andre guilty. As of the release of this video, he's facing a possible life sentence, with additional fraud charges to be addressed at his sentencing. His father, Antonio, expressed sadness and disappointment over the verdict, but vowed to stay by his son. As for Gracie, she was absent from the courtroom when the decision was read. Colleen Rebelo didn't just commit fraud, he took his own mother's life just to maintain a fake image of success online. There's nothing more despicable than sacrificing the person who gave you everything, all for a hollow flex. Number 4. Tattoo setup. Younis Alhassinyani from Arlington, Texas, ended up in a situation no one could have predicted. A forced tattoo session that ended in a terrible ordeal. The 22-year-old was last seen at his ex-girlfriend Erika Perez's apartment, where what should have been an ordinary night took a bizarre and terrible turn. Erika, Pinky Perez, who had a long criminal record and surrounded herself with convicted criminals, had set up a tattoo session at her apartment one night, advertising it on Facebook Live. It was a $500 tap-out session, meaning as many tattoos as someone could handle in one sitting. Alhassinyani, who was her boyfriend, was already there when the event began, but was just hanging out. The apartment wasn't just filled with people looking for ink either. Several of Perez's associates were there as well, some of them armed. Though it may have been unclear at the time, it seems like it may have been a setup. Not far into the night, Perez and Alhassinyani got into a heated argument about him seeing another woman, with Perez then getting a bit physical. That's when one of the armed men, Benjamin Puppet Delgadillo, decided to take control. Under Perez's watch, Alhassinyani was forced to lie face down on a massage table. At her demand, the tattoo artist inked her name onto his neck, working quickly, likely fearing what would happen if he refused. Then, Delgadillo took over the tattoo needle and crudely defaced an existing tattoo on Alhassinyani's back. A video later found on Perez's phone captured Alhassinyani pleading for Delgadillo to go softer, only to be mocked. In the background, Perez could be heard commenting that loyalty hurts more. But the night wasn't over. It was only getting worse. At some point, 3 other armed men joined them. When Alhassinyani, recognizing the situation he was in, asked to call his mother for a ride home, he was told that they would take him home, which was almost a guarantee that that wasn't where they were going to take him. So they all piled in a car and left. Their drive home ended near an isolated drainage ditch, miles from where the night had started. Forced out of the car, Alhassinyani initially refused, but had no real choice. According to Delgadillo, a guy named Justin Jax Salinas then pulled out a firearm and ended Alhassinyani's life. During a later investigation, Perez played it cool when questioned by police, showing no signs of concern when told her boyfriend's life was ended. Investigators quickly unraveled the story, identifying the 4 triggermen and tracking them down. Salinas, Delgadillo, and Pedro Rodriguez were arrested and charged with capital offenses, while police continued searching for the 4th suspect. Perez, despite orchestrating much of the night's events, was hit with lesser charges. What began as a humiliating display of power because of relationship issues spiraled into something far more brutal and ended with Alhassinyani lifeless on the side of a highway. His final moments were spent pleading for mercy that would never come, surrounded by people who had already decided his fate, whether out of vengeance, cruelty, or some twisted sense of justice. For his mother, the nightmare didn't end with his passing. Already a widow, she was left to grieve the unimaginable, the loss of her only son, stolen from her in an act of cruelty so senseless and horrible that no explanation could ever make it right. Number 3. Unluckiest Wins. Shania Baptiste from Brooklyn, New York, wound up on a one-way trip to Florida, but not for the sunshine. Instead, she was escorted there by law enforcement after being accused of conning an unnamed elderly woman out of her life savings in a fake sweepstakes scam. Baptiste and her accomplices targeted an 85-year-old woman in Daytona Beach shores, convincing her she had won $1 million Publishers Clearinghouse prize. Publishers Clearinghouse is a legitimate sweepstakes company that has been around since the 1970s, often featuring elderly winners in their promotions. Many older adults grew up seeing these big prize announcements on TV, making them more likely to believe the scam. So when the woman was told she won it, but needed to pay upfront taxes and fees before she could claim her winnings. She initially tried wiring $20,000, but when bank tellers warned her of the scam, she was allegedly persuaded to try again at another bank under the pretense of helping her family with home repairs. In total, the scammers managed to drain $32,500 from the victim before authorities intervened. By the time the scheme was unraveled, Baptiste had fled to New York, where she was eventually tracked down with help from the NYPD. We'll get back to this story as soon as you click that subscribe button. And make sure you also click the bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss any knowledge on how to defend yourself. Baptiste denied everything, claiming that she was sorry for the crime that was committed, but that it wasn't her, and offered nothing else except a promise to explain when her lawyer was present. Meanwhile, her alleged accomplice, Nielsen Brooks, was also arrested but quickly posted bond and walked free within hours. Authorities have since recovered $20,000, but the rest may take years, if it ever gets returned at all. Chitwood warned that Baptiste and her crew were likely part of a larger multi-state fraud ring preying on elderly victims. As of the release of this video, Baptiste is facing charges of grand theft and operating a fraudulent scheme involving over $20,000. Scamming anyone is low, but targeting elderly people, many of whom are on a fixed income and have little chance of recovering from financial losses, is outright evil. These fraudsters prey on trust and ignorance, draining victims of their life savings with no remorse. This is a good time to remember to check in on your elderly loved ones. Talk to them about scams like this, and make sure they know never to send money or personal information to anyone promising a prize. A simple conversation could save them from becoming the next victim. Number 2. A bitter irony. Blake Mose from Pleasanton, California, was just trying to do his job at Home Depot when he confronted a woman attempting to steal a power tool. While this should have been a routine loss prevention situation, it turned into something far worse. Mose, a 26-year-old security guard and Boy Scout leader, spotted Benicia Knaps attempting to walk out with an item she hadn't paid for. When he tried to stop her, she resisted, pulled out a firearm, and discharged it before making a run for it. Her getaway driver, David Gullery, who was her boyfriend, was waiting with their 2-year-old in the back seat because, of course, she'd bring her toddler. Police quickly caught up with the pair in Oakland just 15 minutes after the incident. Knaps, also a licensed security guard with a history of theft, was hit with second-degree charges, among other things. Guillory faced child endangerment and evading police charges. While being transported, Knaps attempted to choke herself with a seatbelt, leading to a mental health hold. Mose was rushed to the hospital, but didn't survive. His passing sent shockwaves through the community, where he was well known for his work with the Boy Scouts and his aspirations of a career in law enforcement. He and his fiancée had even planned to get married that summer at the scouting camp where they met. After over a year of legal proceedings, Knaps eventually took a plea deal, avoiding a trial. She pleaded no contest to second-degree charges and received a sentence of 19 years to life. Guillory was sentenced to just over 7 years for his role. While some questioned the leniency of the deal, Mose's family ultimately supported it, prioritizing closure over a prolonged trial. For Mose's parents, the loss was unbearable. Their Lori spoke in court about the pain of living 415 days without her son. Despite everything, she and her family chose forgiveness, honoring what they believed Blake would have wanted. The entire situation was as pointless as it was tragic. Knaps had plenty of options. She could have just run, threatened Mose, or literally done anything else. Instead, she chose the one action that couldn't be undone. What makes it even worse is that as a licensed security guard, she knew exactly how these situations typically play out. Mose wasn't going to tackle her or escalate things. Loss prevention staff are trained to observe and report, not to physically intervene. She had every reason to know that, and still made the most reckless, irreversible choice. It's admirable that Mose's family found it in themselves to forgive her, because most people wouldn't. Number 1. Only downsides. Michael Armendariz thought he was meeting up with a friend. Instead, he walked straight into a setup by the mother and son duo of Ernest Collins and Candace Jones, looking for a quick payday. It all started with a social media post, flashing a little too much cash for the wrong people to see. What followed was a senseless scheme that ended with prison sentences all around. Back in 2018, Cassandra Green, Ernest Collins' girlfriend, messaged Michael Armendariz on Snapchat, inviting him out. Thinking he was meeting up with a friend, or maybe something more, Armendariz got into Green's car, unaware that Collins was waiting in the back with a plan to rob him. Moments after they drove off, Collins emerged from the back seat and carried out the plan, using a firearm on Armendariz twice before he had a chance to react. Green and Collins then continued as planned, his mother's house in Chicago, where she helped them move the body into a garbage can before stashing it in a vacant house next door. With Armendariz's keys in hand, then they decided to ransack his apartment, thinking they had pulled off the perfect crime with no one discovering his disappearance for months. For weeks, no one knew what had happened to Michael Armendariz. He was simply a missing person. But as investigators dug into his disappearance, they uncovered Green's connection and eventually pieced together the plot. Within weeks, all three were arrested, even though Armendariz' body was still missing. It wasn't until about 4 months later that a neighbor reported a foul smell coming from the vacant house next door, leading to the grim discovery of his remains. By then, Green had taken a plea deal, while Collins and Jones faced the full weight of the law. Collins, the triggerman, received 70 years for first-degree offenses and another 28 for armed robbery. His mother, who orchestrated the whole thing, got 40 years for her role and 28 more for armed robbery. Green, for her cooperation, was handed a 21-year sentence. This whole thing happened because Jones saw Armendariz flaunting money on social media and decided it should be hers. So instead of actually working for it, she convinced her son and his girlfriend to pull off a sloppy, brutal scheme that ended with a body tragically decomposing in a trash can. The takeaway here is that it's never a good idea to flaunt your wealth online. Actually, the way things are these days, it's never a good idea to flaunt your wealth at all. There's zero upside. You never know who's watching, and all it takes is one reckless, desperate person to see it as an opportunity that can change everything. Click to watch one of these next videos.